Hello and welcome to another session of Groundbreakers Live. I'm your host Javed Mohammed, and I'm very honored to have with us Vipin Samar, who is the Senior VP of Database Security at Oracle. Vipin, welcome.
Thank you, Javed. Pleased to be
So,
here.
absolutely. So, Vipin, we'll get right into it. You're presenting at Sangam 20, Polishing the Crystal Ball, Data Security. What does the crystal ball tell us?
Well, security is a very exciting space. This is one
Uh-huh,
space which has changed so much
uh-huh,
and very difficult to tell as to how it would look like
mm-hmm,
a decade from now.
mm-hmm,
It's not just that the tools would evolve, people would evolve, the
mm-hmm.
hackers would evolve, the techniques would evolve. So we are looking at very exciting 10 years ahead of us. I'll be talking about my perception of what that may look like.
So can you give us a sneak peek? And what kind of things can we expect?
So, I mean, if you think about security, right? Um, Security has always been the part of civilization. It kind of actually goes way back.
Mm-hmm,
But from our perspective, in the last 25 years alone, so much has happened in this online world. We all are now online. We, our dogs, our devices, everybody is now online.
mm-hmm,
Some of them may not be the most friendly people out there, but hackers are out there.
uh-huh,
And the tools and technologies have really changed over last so many years.
mm-hmm,
Even if you look at uh, internet itself, right?
mm-hmm,
We got TLS, we got strong authentication, we got strong identity, everything.
mm-hmm,
But now going forward is the key part, right? So going
mm-hmm,
forward, of course, we'll have billions of people for sure, each person with a smartphone,
mm-hmm,
trillions of devices. I'm sure at our homes now, we have 10, 15, 20 smart devices,
mm-hmm.
smart TV, or smart speakers, smart this, smart
You're
that.
talking about the Internet of Things.
Yes, right.
Mm-hmm,
But now, as a hacker, I could exploit all of them and
mm-hmm,
make them part of my army,
mm-hmm,
attacking you where you are. So the number of ways in which anybody could be hacked would really multiply n times. So
mm-hmm,
we have to build our tools so that we can deal with
mm-hmm.
that scale of data, that scale of objects, and that complexity, right? So that's what I talk about certainly, but really kind of think of it as you got to manage things at scale. And it has to be simple that normal human beings can deal with,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. So for something that is changing so rapidly and so drastically, how does someone like you, I mean, it requires courage to do what you're doing, to make such bold predictions for that far out. So I'm even kind of curious, how do you even go about doing something like that?
the Javed, the secret is predictions are always easy to make
Uh-huh.
because you don't really know what would really happen in future, right?
Okay.
And I think, but the tough part really is in coming up with a timeline, right?
Uh-huh.
When would this really be true?
Uh-huh.
That's the more difficult part, right? and
Okay.
and I think for security, even we don't really know how things would shape up and what the timeline is. The other
Uh-huh.
complexity, just kind of thinking about prediction, is that
Uh-huh.
it's easy for human beings to think in one dimension. Hey,
Uh-huh.
if I were to build a faster car, what might that lead to? But
Uh-huh.
along with that, say, hey, I've built a faster car, I have built great highways, I have found ways to attach 20 cars in one shot. I mean, it all depends upon how this whole complex environment would actually evolve.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very hard. So actually, you are right, Java. It's very hard to really guesstimate where things are, but we have the past as a guidance. We kind of know from looking at the last 10, 20 years as to how things have evolved, right? All the new elements that have come about and the complexity they have all brought onto the table. So
Mm-hmm.
kind of, I guess I've had the front seat, if you will, to look
Okay.
at last 25 years of evolution of security alone,
Uh-huh.
right? From all the way from nothing but passwords to firewalls to SSL to
Mm-hmm.
you name the whole identity management, database security, encryption, everything has evolved after that. So I've had, I guess, that luxury or of kind of being there. So I guess it makes it still difficult, very difficult to really know what would happen. But I'm going to share my ideas on
Okay.
what that would look like.
Well, it sounds very exciting. So when you're talking about the past, what I'm thinking of, I mean, you're the kind of the ultimate entrepreneur, right? Because that's what people do is they try to find the inflection points, and based upon that, they based on the past, they predict what's going to happen in the future. So, so I'm just kind of curious, how long have you been in the crystal ball business, and how well has it been? How's the business been going?
Uh, that's a great question, actually. So um, I've been in security, just kind of I was saying, I think since early 90s.
Okay.
And even that time I got into security not because of love for security, to be honest, but I wanted to solve a business problem as an entrepreneur,
Uh-huh.
right? And for the thing that service, actually at that time pre-internet, we wanted to build a service to allow people to be built for software usage and not really owning the software.
Hmm.
Way ahead of the curve, right? But of course we were way ahead, so that didn't really go out. But to implement that, we wanted something like a way to really secure all the transactions and all the events. So
Hmm.
that's how I kind of got into security. Right?
Okay.
And it's always about, and at that time we'll say, hey, because all the time, all things that we had that time was just plain authentication. That's the only
Hmm.
security we really had. And after that, I've seen how the world has evolved over time, right? So you
Hmm.
kind of always have to be on lookout for what next may happen. And it comes. I can't tell you, Javed, how it happens, but it just kind of happens. Like, for example, we said that, hey, it's really going to become important to limit what your DBAs can look at in
Hmm.
terms of, because the databases have a lot of sensitive data. We need to be
Sure.
able to control who can see what.
Hmm.
And up till 12, 15 years back, it was more like, I trust my DBAs, which is good. But guess what? Somebody else can get the DBA credentials and can become the DBA. Now what? Somebody
Hmm.
can elevate privileges, they become the DBA. So
Hmm.
we came up with a database vault like in 2007, right? Thinking that that is what would become important. And guess what? That has become important, right?
Hmm.
We said that you cannot really use your regular data for your test and dev, because hackers know that your production databases are very well secured, but your test databases are not. And if you use the real data for your testing, guess what? Hackers would have access to that data.
Hmm.
So again, around 2007, 8 time frame, we said, hey, we should really look at how do you mask data,
Hmm.
right? So that the analytics space, I mean, that time, well, at that time there was no analytics, but for now, you can use mask data for analytics. You can use that mask data for test and dev, right?
Okay.
Same thing what we did also for auditing. I said it would become really important to see what people are doing, because that's the only thing you really have for sure. And in all of that, we were ahead of the curve by 3 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Okay.
Even things like detecting SQL injection attacks and blocking them, right?
Okay.
It's like, so again, we were way ahead, because sometimes you're ahead, sometimes you are behind. That's the game. You could never be perfect, but I guess I've seen many of these transitions happen.
Hmm.
So I guess again, I get a vantage point. I'm sorry I have that. I'm
Okay.
lucky to have it. And plus, certainly customers come and tell us too as to
Okay.
what they're looking at. So kind of it's driven from both our own experience, but also what customers are telling us.
Okay. So one of the questions that kind of comes to mind is, how does security change as we move from on-premise to the cloud, as customers kind of and small and large make that transition? How does that world change?
Well, that world actually changes a lot. So
Hmm.
earlier, right, if you go back a few years, people didn't want to move to the cloud because of security. They were
Hmm.
concerned about security, right? And now they want to move to the cloud because of security,
Hmm.
right? That's a strong point for them, because it's really difficult for regular companies, small companies or large actually, to really have the full force security expertise out there to know exactly what to do. And the sad truth about this whole IT industry is that uh, every part of the IT can be hacked, because it has come from different areas, different components. And so unless you secure each of these pieces and you do it well, you really would not have a secure system, right? So what cloud does is that one company takes over that responsibility, all the pieces.
Hmm.
And since it's our business, we really make sure that all parts from infrastructure onwards, whether it's networking, it's identity, it's databases, all those pieces, whether it's your application, all put together are secure. So this way, customers don't have to worry about it. We encrypt that data, we patch them, we monitor the traffic, we do whatever has to be done. So I think that as customers, so the reason to move to cloud, in addition to all other reasons about All of that is
The
that,
economics and everything else. Uh-huh.
yeah, economics, convenience, all that. It's also
Mhm.
actually security.
Okay.
So, so it would
Right.
really, and also going forward, security decisions would be hard to make because human beings would find it very, very difficult. So even to get our uh, AI, ML, everything running uh,
Mhm.
appropriately with all the knowledge and all the insight, you
Mhm.
need to be on the cloud.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a fascinating presentation, and we encourage actually all the viewers out there to check it out. So, Vipin, I just want to say I wish you all the best. And as soon as we get off this call, I'm going to ask you about what your crystal ball says about the stock market. Vipin, thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Javed. Take care.
Bye bye.